Welcome to another episode of the Can't Deposit Excuses podcast. I'm your host, Derek Wiley, and I'm so happy today to have with me Mr. Gary Bowen with OVM Financial, who is not only a great person in the mortgage industry, but a great guy and has a great story to tell that is not related to the industry writ large. But Gary, thanks for being on, man.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, I got around to you eventually. I mean, I like to save the best for, later, not last. Hopefully you're not the last episode unless something tragic happens to me when I leave the episode today. I don't know if I told you, I think in a text message yesterday, I have both my hot water heater and my air conditioning unit out right now. So this could be our last episode. I'm going to try not to ride any roller coasters, get on any airplanes, not go to the racetrack, get into a race car, because knowing my luck, I don't know what the probabilities are of having both your AC and your hot water heater within 48 hours crap out on you, but apparently I would say that person has bad luck. So I wanted to talk to you today, man. So Gary is a great guy, but part of the reason that he's really impressive to me is Gary has lost a tremendous amount of weight. It's almost like TV episode worthy in terms of what you've been able to do and the transformation that you've been able to have. You and I have talked about this a little bit back and forth over time about where you were at and how you got to where you were. And I just think it's inspirational. In the podcast, the whole point that we do this is I want to talk to interesting people about interesting topics. And I also want people to be motivated. I know I'm motivated by you. My waistline's not showing it right now. But I want to have some of what you've got in terms of motivation to get out there and make a difference in your life. So I just want to talk to you about that and just tell me what's the story? Where did that start? Where did that weight loss journey begin?
Well, see, the weight loss journey began in November of 2019, and at that point I was the heaviest I've ever been in my life, and shoot, I'll say it, I was 320 pounds. Then, and I carried my weight well though. Still handsome, but just big dude.
You just have to shop in the Husky Boy section.
Exactly, yeah, big and tall. So it's not a lot of style you can rock in the big and tall unless it's having to do with fishing or the beach or some kind of brewery or something like that. But no, it was November 2019, and really, kind of, I'll say the come to Jesus meeting. Basically, I went to my doctor. And my doctor, in my family, a lot of blood pressure, diabetes, those issues. And I went to my doctor, and I was 33 at the time, and he's like, "You're borderline everything." He's like, "So you need to make a change, or you're gonna have all these very soon." And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to have be diabetic at 33 years old," and it's kind of like a shocking thing, especially when a doctor tells you that, and you're just like, well, I need to do something. So right then and there I was like, I got to change now because I'm 33. If I wait longer, it's going to get harder and harder, because that's what everybody says, and it is. Once you get past 35, it's like it's really a struggle.
You're giving me motivation right
now. I know,
now.
exactly.
Something
exactly.
really good.
Exactly.
So basically, I have no hope. Gary taking all hope. I'll win out of myself. You're over 35. You have no chance. So thanks, Gary. I
was going to say, it's harder. You can still do it.
Still do it. All right, good.
Still do it,
good.
Of course. But I was like, well, I need to do it now. So, for a month and a half or so, I kind of I tried to eat a little bit better and kind of went lower carbs. So I watched that. But I was like, I need more of a plan. So in January of 2020, believe it or not, I researched the best diets and kind of life-changing things they could do, and the two were number one was the Zone for men, and the other one was Weight Watchers. I was like, Weight Watchers, and then I remembered Charles Barkley lost all that weight on Weight Watchers. I was like, well, maybe this is the way to go, because the Zone was just crazy expensive, $300 a month, because they send you meals and all this stuff.
And is it complicated?
Yeah,
that's my
it's
whole
complicated.
There's a lot of things. I think it's a lot of these diets. They seem very complicated when you start looking into them.
It is. It is very complicated. It's expensive. And then Weight Watchers was just an app that I could put on my phone, and it was $19 a month, and you track everything you eat. And I was like, well, that's probably the easy way to do it. So I started doing it in January 2020. And at that point, when I started, I was 308 pounds. So I'd lost 7 pounds in a month and a half, which really wasn't a lot, because when you're that weight, most of it's water weight, the first weight you lose. But started in January 2020, and just started a different lifestyle, man, because you literally look at everything you eat. You know, you're in the grocery store and you have the app out and you're scanning stuff to see how many points it is, because it's tracking your point total you get every day, and you have to track everything. So, you know, when I started doing that, I lost from January to like the end of March, early April. I had lost about 35 pounds in that 3 months.
35 pounds is pretty impressive.
It
Were
is.
you adding any exercise or anything
No,
to that, or were you
no,
just
I wasn't.
purely diet?
I was like, you know, where I messed up in in previous ways of trying to lose weight is I tried to exercise and eat right at the same time, but really losing weight's 90% diet, man. I was like, I finally figured that out. It's 90% diet. You can work out all you want, but if you eat like crap, you're going to look like crap mostly and feel like crap mostly, because it's what you're putting in your body. And that took me the longest time to figure that out. So I was like, well, I'm going to focus on my diet for 3 or 4 months and lose some weight. That way, when I do go back to the gym, I'm not going to be starving when I get back and, you know, just gorge on food and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, I lost 35 pounds. And I was like, well, I'm going to go back to the gym. And then the pandemic hit. All the gyms shut down.
That stinks.
So,
like right after you've
yep,
gotten this
I was
motivation.
like, oh, man, to
Yeah.
go back to the gym. But it actually worked out in my favor because it just helped me focus. You know, I was like, well, I can work out at home, but I was like, you know, I'm just going to keep focusing on eating right and changing my whole lifestyle, the way I eat. And that's one of the things that Weight Watchers did was just yes, you're tracking points, but it teaches you a whole new style of eating. Like, because the lower the point total, the better the food is. So, you know, now instead of going to, you know, a restaurant or fast food or something, instead of getting a burger or, you know, fried chicken sandwich, I'll get a grilled chicken sandwich. Chick-fil-A was a lifesaver because Chick-fil-A is actually a phenomenal Weight Watchers. So their grilled chicken nuggets and chicken sandwich and all that stuff. So
What do you get as your side item?
salad, side salad, or the chicken noodle soup is a low point.
There we go.
And that's a good. You get 12 grilled nuggets and a bowl of chicken noodle soup, and it's a good hearty meal.
That's a good tip because who doesn't
It
like
is.
Chick-fil-A? Like you said, they're a lifesaver.
Yeah, exactly. It was a lifesaver. It was like, man. But, you know, the pandemic hit. I didn't get back to the gym, so I was like, I'm just not going to work at home. I'm going to continue to focus on just eating right and changing my whole body when it comes to, you know, craving sugar and craving chips and all that stuff. And I had to figure out things to substitute for that when I did. Like, instead of chips, I switched to pretzels and hummus and veggies and stuff like that. And ate grilled chicken instead of fried chicken and lean steak instead of fatty steak, you know. So my favorite's ribeye, but it's one of the most fatty steaks you can eat.
Fattiest cut of meat that there is.
Exactly. It's delicious.
There's a reason why it's delicious.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of eating that, I go to sirloin because it's lean. Sirloin's still a good steak, but it's just, you know, certain things that you don't really think about that make a huge difference. And that's what Weight Watchers taught me is just, you know, portion control, what to eat. And I can't eat nearly as much as I used to. Like, I used to be able to crush, you know, a whole large pizza from like Tony Avolino's or.
Now your stomach and everything has shrunk to the point where it's like
I'm eating like 3
quicker.
pieces and I'm sick as a dog for like a whole day. So it's like my body's like, what are you doing? Like,
Was there any point along the way where you had any setbacks? I mean, that's the hardest thing. I think a lot of the times when you said earlier, you said, you know, in the past, I tried to do this and I tried to do both things. I tried to lose weight by eating better and tried to exercise. And I think what happens is if you fail, like say you have a bad week doing either of those two things, like, hey, I didn't work out this week, it's almost like you throw in the towel and you give up and you say, okay, well, I messed up on this, so therefore I'm just going to throw the towel in. So by just focusing on one, it enables you not to have as what I guess we'll say a demotivating incident, an incident that demotivates you.
And then, you know, that happens and stuff like that. A weekend, you might go out of town, or a weekend, you know, you drink a little bit more than you should or something like that. But it was funny because that's, you know, because I'm a huge, like, I used to be a huge beer guy. I loved craft beers, loved going to breweries and stuff like that. But, you know, I try to figure out a way. I'm like, well, I still like to drink. So that's actually when I got into bourbon.
Yeah.
Because I could drink bourbon and there wasn't a lot of points on Weight Watchers. I could just drink it on the rocks.
Yeah.
So I got into bourbon big time. So I've only had in 2 years, I've only had 5 beers in 2 years.
That's awesome.
Because I was like, beer is great, but it's packed full of like carbs and all that stuff. And you can drink a lot of it and just bloat yourself. And it defeats the purpose of trying to lose weight. So
yeah, I think it's a problem for a lot of guys.
It is. It's like, and that's, bourbon was kind of, a lifesaver when, especially with the pandemic, because everybody was drinking more.
Yeah, and everybody was like having a good time. You're like, well, I don't want to be like Debbie Downer and not do anything. It's like, I'd like to enjoy a drink with my buddies, but maybe I'm not going to enjoy 6 beers with my buddies.
It's like, you can have a good 100 proof bottled and bond bourbon. You can have a few of those and you're good.
Yeah.
But instead of 10 beers.
That's like I said, I think that's the biggest problem. I think as a guy, and here's the other question I wanted to ask you. You were talking about earlier going to the grocery store and scanning your food in and all the rest. Here's something else that I think tends to be difficult when it comes to losing weight. I know it's been something that I've struggled with that's hard for me, is if I was a single guy and didn't have to worry about anyone else, I think I can be pretty militant about my diet and my exercise habits. Like, I have that inside of me to be very focused and hyper-focused. The problem is and I know you have a wife and kids, when you have family, you can't be, it can't all be about you, because you have to have them be a part of this journey. So how was it in terms of your wife and your kids trying to eat better while doing this? How did that work out?
She did it too.
Awesome.
And she lost 75 pounds.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's like, she did too, but we had to, because if we cooked meals during during being quarantined and all that stuff, we had to figure out things to cook and stuff like that, which we did. And the kids would just eat what we made, Well, it's just, they still like chicken and vegetables and stuff like that. We would just not eat their snacks, which were chips and gummies and all that fun stuff.
It's the thing about having kids. Your house is always filled with sugary cereal and snacks and all these things.
Yeah, having to withhold from that was tough, but I did. And after the gyms actually opened back up, and at the end of May, by that point I had lost 55 pounds or something like that, just on diet alone in 6 months.
That's impressive.
So I was like, all right, I'm ready to go back. So I went back for about a month and just did random stuff, and then still losing weight. And then I was like, well, I need to figure out something to get me into shape, like a workout routine. I don't want a personal trainer. I don't want to join these classes. I just want to figure out something I could do myself. And I was researching it, and basically body weight military exercises are probably the best thing you can do, hands down, if you're trying to get in shape quickly. And that's why the military's used them for years, because you can, in boot camp, you can go from weak to pretty darn strong in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever.
I remember when I was at VMI, I'm trying to think, we matriculated maybe it was August the 12th or something. I'm going to mess this date up. And any of my brother rats out there, I messed this date up. Don't hold me to it. It's been a long time ago. I've tried to forget all those horrible memories. But we matriculated in early August. And we had a football game against William and Mary the second week in September, I want to say. And my wife went to William and Mary, and so she was going there. This would be the first time and the only time I would see her. Most guys will never see.
So your wife's smarter than you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. She's a genius compared to me. So I'm smart. Hey, I'm smart enough to understand that and to marry up in life. But she was going to William and Mary, and I had the opportunity. Most guys didn't have this chance to ever see their significant other, but it just so happened that the core trip, they'd always take one trip a year to go to a away football game, take the entire core of cadets. So we went there, and when she saw me, she was like, oh my goodness, I had lost 28 pounds. And I wasn't that big of a guy going into Vietnam. I put on a few pounds that summer. I'd been working a job where I drove a truck around, so I put on a few pounds. But I was down I wrestled in high school. I was underneath the weight I wrestled at, which in high school, I had to lose weight after football season to make weight. So for me to be that weight, she was like, what have they done to you? And I'm like you said, body weight exercises,
push-ups.
I think I do 1,000 push-ups a day, and they run me till I'm dying. So if you do those two things, you can get in shape pretty quickly.
It works.
Yeah. No, so body weight exercises. So what would you do? I mean, obviously push-ups.
I started, that stuff. I mean, I started because I'd researched it, and I was like, well, this is the route to go. I was like, this is going to suck.
Yeah.
Tremendously, but I was like, if I want to kind of, at that point I hadn't really stalled. I was still losing weight, but instead of 2-3 pounds a week, it went back to about a pound, half a pound, just because your body's starting to get used to it. You had to switch it up.
Yeah, your body gets smart
yeah.
and realizes
Yeah.
what you're doing to it.
So that's why I was like, well, when I went back to the gym, I was like, I need to figure out something. So I researched it and I did that. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to start out, I could do like 8 push-ups or something like that. So I was like, well, I'm going to start out and do like, 4 sets of 5, whatever, and then do some crunches and do some free weight stuff and all that stuff. Cause I was like, well, it's really all about your core when it comes to being strong and getting in shape. So that's why I focused a lot on. So I did that for about a month. And, I was starting to be able to do, 10 push-ups in a row. So I could do 4 sets of 10 push-ups. And I was like, all right, I was getting stronger because you could do push-ups every day. You don't have to do them once or twice a week and let your body recruit because it's using your body weight and your...
Not as hard on your body.
Exactly. So you can do those every day. So I did them every day for like a month and I got stronger. And then in August, I was like, I'm really going to kick it up now. So I discovered the burpee.
Oh my goodness.
Which
the
is
burpee.
the most miserable exercise on the planet, but it works.
So how many burpees were you doing?
I started out doing like 3 sets of 5 because they're just, they're miserable. They work your whole body. It works everything. Yeah. So I was doing that for a month and continuing to increase my reps and all that stuff. And now, I'm up to like where I'll do 6 sets of 10 in less than 20 minutes. Which is like, if you had told me I could do that a year ago, I'd be like, yeah, whatever. It's like, there's no way in hell I could do that. But that's why I do that and, core work and stuff like that. And I actually just switched up now just because, once I started doing that, it kind of spurred my weight loss again back in August, especially the burpee thing really spurred weight loss, and everything. So in November of 2020, I had hit the 100 pound mark for 2 years, 100 pounds. That's basically amazing. Yeah. So, or actually 1 year, 100 pounds. Yeah. So I had hit that and I was like, whoa. I was like, it's a big goal. So, I started at 315 and now I'm down to, I still maintain about 215 now because I don't really lose a lot of weight anymore. It's like inches and stuff like that just because of exercise and everything because you're putting on muscle and it weighs more than fat. So that's kind of like a mental thing too because you're like, why am I not losing weight? But then my shirts fit better, and my pants fit better.
Yeah, you can't be focused. You can't be focused entirely on the scale.
It's not about that anymore. So, I'm like, all right. So it worked. It was just staying motivated to do that. And the biggest motivation was, biggest thing that wasn't a deterrent is I realized I can't weigh myself every day. Because a lot of people will get on a diet and they weigh themselves every day, but your weight fluctuates so much during a week. You could eat a meal with heavy sodium in it the night before and you're going to weigh 2 more pounds. So the next morning. So, I went to once a week, every Friday morning. Because I knew after a weekend, if I had, a couple cheat meals, I wouldn't like the scale on Monday. So every Friday morning, I would weigh myself and see where I was at.
I think Weight Watchers, isn't that like part of their program too? They encourage you to weekly weigh in, exactly, not to do it on a regular basis because I think like you said, you have those fluctuations from day to day, just depending upon what you might have eaten. And it's not really a reflection of where you're at, and it can be demotivating. Although, I think also the thing you have to guard against is not falling into where you don't weigh yourself at all, and then you fall into that. Because I've been there.
You're like 20 pounds heavy, and you're like, what happened?
So I remember this has been like 10 years ago, longer than 10 years ago, probably 12 years ago. I had been at one point like 259, I want to say, and I lost and got down to like 186. Like got back down to like what I weighed when I was probably like a freshman in high school. And so I did what you did. I religiously followed a diet to begin with, just try to eat better. And then, because I tried to do the same thing, eat better, exercise. And whenever I tried to do both, it was too much. So I started off and I said, well, once I get some weight off of me and my joints and stuff feel a little bit better, then I'll start working out. So I started working out and I lost a bunch of weight. But the problem that happened to me, because I'm back up now, not as heavy as I was, but pretty close to it, is that I stopped looking at my weight on a regular basis. You know, when you got COVID and you're not coming to the office all the time and you can wear, you know, athletic shorts and sweatpants, you know, you don't notice that, oh man, these jeans don't fit like they used to, et cetera. And so that's what happened to me. I gained some weight during this COVID pandemic. I'm trying to get rid of. But I think the other thing you have to guard against is that overconfidence. Because I think I got to a point where I got overconfident, where I was like, well, you know, my metabolism's better now. I can eat things that I used to not be able to eat, and I don't gain weight. But if you don't keep an eye on the inches, i.e. wearing, like, don't buy those, what are they, the khakis that have the stretch band in them. Don't get those things. They're horrible. It's like the
extender on it.
It's like the Joey Tribbiani pants, one of the Thanksgiving pants. He has like the maternity pants, like his turkey eating pants. Like, don't get you turkey eating pants. Get you, yeah. So that's the thing you have to guard against, I think, is this whole overconfidence of, well, you know, I lost all this weight.
And then what I want and work out and it'll be
well, exactly. You cheat a little bit, because that's the thing. Like when I was younger, and most guys are like this. When we're younger, we all eat horribly. I mean, you ever met a 20-year-old guy that ate good?
I gained 45 pounds my freshman year.
Yeah.
Nope. Beer, pizza,
exactly.
Halo 2. And,
yes.
You know, stuff like Yeah.
But the one thing we have working in our favor when you're younger is A, the metabolism, and B, at least for me, I was still active. You know, I'm doing stuff like at VMI. We're running, we're working out, we're doing things. So, you know, it helped temper that somewhat. You get out of school and you get into the real world and there's no, like, you know, requirement, and you keep eating like that and doing that, it will catch up with you. And I think that's the other problem, at least it's been my problem when I've lost weight, is you lose this weight and then you get this overconfidence of like, well, listen, I've kept this weight off for 6 months. Like, I'm going to have a pizza tonight. Like I'm gonna drink this beer, and it's okay if it was a one-time thing, but it's kind of like smoking a cigarette. It's like one turns into two, turns into three, turns into a pack, turns into a habit that you then, because I think that's the big thing with weight loss, and it's probably why Weight Watchers work for you, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it's not just that it doesn't have to be Weight Watchers, but you have to find a program that works for you that you can follow.
And
consistency.
And it's got to, in whatever program, it has to change your whole outlook on eating and a whole outlook on, like, your whole life, basically.
Yeah.
Because that's, I mean, it like now, I mean, I don't track anything really. I haven't used my app for a couple months.
Because you made it a habit.
Yeah, because I've made it a habit, and I know what I can eat. Like, so during the week, you know, I'll stay pretty religiously towards eating healthy. During the weekends, you know, I have a cheat meal on Saturday and on Sunday, and kind of eat what I want, but not to an excess, because I can't anymore. I don't, you know, if I want chips, instead of going to the cabinet and grabbing the whole bag, I'll grab a serving out and put them on a napkin and just eat that. Because if you sit there on the couch with the bag's going to be empty and you're not even going to know it, you know, stuff like that. It's just simple things that have changed my whole mindset. And instead of, like, craving certain things, you know, like if I'm craving sugar or something like that and I wanted a ho-ho or a Twinkie or whatever, instead of that, I'll just, you know, grab a spoon of peanut butter. And it's not that sweet, but it kind of
quenches that thirst that you have to have something sweet.
Exactly. Yep, that, and drinking a ton of water and stuff like that, and still being able to, you know, drinking bourbon during the winter and fall, and then during the summer I switched to, you know, kind of a bougie drink, the Tito's and sparkling ice drinks mix. Yeah, for a 215-pound, 6'2" guy, that's great to see that guy drinking that. But yeah,
absolutely,
they're great. It's you know, it's a lot healthier for you, so I do it that way during the summer.
Yeah.
Bourbon makes you sweat and real warm when you drink it, so it's too hot to drink it during the summer. So it just have to switch to something else. But
I think there's a correlation. You could tell me what your thoughts are on this, because I've noticed this when I'm, you know, trying to be healthier physically. Did you see that physical transformation had an impact on other parts of your life? Like in business, I feel like it made me more mentally focused, made me sharper, made me more motivated. And I just want to know, like, what your experience was.
It is. I mean, you're sharper. I mean, like you were saying earlier, your joints don't hurt. You know, like I used to have like ankle pain, knee pain, all that stuff gone. But it makes you mentally sharper. It makes you extremely confident in yourself. Mm-hmm. So in our business, when it comes to sales, that's confidence is 90% of it. I mean, you have to be confident. You have to be able to hear no 9 out of 10 times, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, that really did transition over into that. And I think that's what's helped me being being in the mortgage industry since August of last year. It's kind of helped me hit the ground running like I have, and been pretty successful like I have.
Yeah, I know you've had some really good months, right? Since you've been in the mortgage industry, you transitioned to that, and that was kind of happening. Not you had already started the weight loss and lost the weight before, but like right around the time you were probably hitting your stride.
That's when
when you started.
August is like when I started, and that's when I started really focusing on the physical part.
Yeah.
And it's just exercising 4 or 5 days a week just changes your whole mindset and makes you that outlook on life a lot better. And just
you work out in the morning or the afternoon?
I work out in the evenings actually. Yeah, I'll go from like 7:15 to about 9 and work out and do all that stuff. Awesome. And a lot of the stuff I can actually do at home because it's body weight stuff. But if I put it on myself to do it at home, I won't do it.
Did you find like a program online to follow? Did you just make up your own program?
Make up my own, a bunch of articles I read and made up my own stuff that I'm like, I can do that. I enjoy to do that. And I actually just switched it up because I've gotten in good shape and I can, do those 60 burpees and, whatever in 20 minutes, whatever. But I've changed it up now where, I didn't do a lot of free weights and stuff like that. But now to the point I'm like, I need to switch it up again because you have to switch it every 2 or 3 months because your body gets used to what you were doing. And I didn't do the burpees for a couple months. So now it's like, one day I do arms and or like pull stuff basically for your biceps and your back. And then the next day I'll just do cardio body weight stuff. And then the next day I'll do chest and push stuff. But every day I still do push-ups no matter what. I'll still do at least 100 push-ups every day. And then skip a day and then you do legs and skip a day and whatever.
Do you work out on the weekends or do you take the weekends off?
No, I work on the weekends. I do it on like alternating, like 2 on, 1 off. Usually my days off are Friday and then Monday. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I think the part about that people miss a lot of times, and I know that I've missed this, is that physical piece along with the mental piece, along with the professional piece. It all comes together. I was watching Cobra Kai last night, and I got a good lesson from Mr. Miyagi. I'd forgotten about it. Yeah, I just got in. Everybody's been watching it, but I'm one of those people, like, I watch Breaking Bad, like, after it's already been out 10 years. I'm like, oh, what's this Walter White thing? Let me look into this. So anyways, I started watching it, and balance. That's the lesson, like the karate lesson. Life is about balance. So, yeah, so clearly, I think that's the part that because that's my whole thing. I've been guilty of this, and I'm sure you have too, because when you're in sales or you're in any industry and you're really pushing hard at it, a lot of times you'll put your own physical health on the back burner and say, hey, I'd love to work out. I'd love to eat better. I'd love to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm so busy doing this thing that, like, I'll get to that later. The problem is that later never comes, and that other part, that physical part, starts to encroach upon other parts of your life. And like you said, I think the confidence piece is huge.
It is. The confidence piece is huge. And plus, once you create a habit, and 21 days makes a habit and stuff like that. I mean, once you create a habit of going to the gym and your body like gets used to it, if you don't go for 3 or 4 days, it kind of craves it. And your body's like, what's going on? Let's go get going. And everything. So that after I just got used to it, it's a habit now.
Yeah.
If I don't go for, like, when I took that trip to Tampa, because I didn't work out for 3 or 4 days, and I got back and I was like, I need to go. It was just, your body's kind of craving it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. If you don't do it, you
don't use it, you lose it.
You lose it. You lose it. I was gonna say. So you made that transition, like you said, you transitioned into that mortgage industry right around the time. Like, I think it sounds like to me, like around the time that you hit the 100-pound mark, right? Like,
I did, like, I was probably like 60 some or 65, 70 pounds.
Yeah. So and then made the rest of the way. The body weight and like really physical and exercising more than just being diet based.
Yeah, that helped a ton. Just the confidence piece and all that stuff. And I'm in a good spot too. I have good mentor or 2 good mentors in the office. I mean, Bernie and Kent, who's been in the business for years. So I was lucky walking into that and everything, and understanding the mortgage industry pretty darn well, just because I worked so closely with them in insurance for 5 years. Yeah. So knew the terminology, and before I was in insurance, I was in financing and car sales and stuff with enterprise. So I understood credit, stuff and everything just from that piece. So
Yeah.
it all worked out.
That's awesome. I think I was talking to you here, I don't know, maybe it was like a month and a half or so ago, and you were talking about, I don't know what month it was. It could have been December, it could have been January, but didn't you have like a record-breaking month for like a new...
Pretty close to it, yeah. I think, was it March? Yeah, March.
March.
Well, I had like 1.86 million or something like that.
Which is fantastic for someone that's been in the business less than a...
Yeah, that's probably like, I mean, I almost had over 2 million, but one deal didn't work out, but... that's probably tied for the highest in that office of all those, the mortgage people that have been there for years. So,
do you think that you would have as much success, or would have had as much success that you're having now, had you not decided to make this transformation in your life? Do you think it?
Oh, probably not at all, because I would have been, still at my old place of business, working from home and not being motivated at all, really.
It gets hard to go out and talk to people.
It is, especially in our
people.
business, because that's what our business is. We're in the people business.
No, I agree. I think there's a lot to be said for that. Like I said, I mean, I remember when I started my insurance agency, I guess it's 12 years ago now. That's right after I had lost that weight that first time and came down, and my confidence level was very high because obviously I just gone through that transformation, and I'm a pretty confident person, and you are a confident person as well, but it's something to be said, even if you're a confident person, if you are carrying around a lot of extra weight, or you don't feel good physically or whatever, you can't help it. Mentally impacts you. You don't feel good, then you don't want to, like, well, I don't want to go do that, or I don't want to go have that meeting, or, the last thing I want to hear today is another no from someone. Whereas if your confidence is high, like you said, and someone says no, you're like, you just brush it off. You're like, all right, off to the next one, because you've put your body through something. You've created your own crucible to the point where you're like, well, I just did this. And you had this feeling like, well, if I can accomplish this, if I can be this committed, focused, and dedicated to something, this is nothing compared to that.
Well, it's like, as being in sales, as a salesman, the second best thing we can hear is no, because we can move on to the next person to help them and stuff like that. So, sales training stuff, it sucks hearing no, but hey, that's okay. You can take your time to the next person and devote it to them that you can do business with and everything. So, just that confidence piece, and it transitioned over to that. So quite a bit.
Was there anything or anybody, a book, a personality, anything, a movie? Was there anything during this process that motivated?
Zac Efron dad bod. That was goals.
Okay. All right, there you go. So there you go. Zac Efron dad bod, that's it.
I mean, come on. Why not?
I just always wonder, like sometimes there's like some motivation. Like me, I was always when I would lose weight, I was always highly motivated, like internally. And it was kind of similar to your story where it was more of like, I want to do this for me. But, I was telling people.
Your kids too.
Kids.
Yeah. I mean, 7 and 5-year-olds. So, like, I want to be healthy and around for them, years down the road. So, I mean, you look at them and you're like, I lost my mom when, I was 29, and I was lucky to have her that long, but she was younger when she passed away, and she passed away because of complications with diabetes and stuff like that. And I saw that firsthand. And that's, when the doctor told me all that stuff, I'm just like, I can't do that,
Yeah, you don't need any external motivation because you have it in your own life internally.
If you see that, and everything. So, that was the big piece and the motivating factor, and also the mirror. So you look in the mirror and you're like, I got to change. Tired of buying these fishing shirts and brewery shirts in the big and tall section. I can now actually, I can wear a large and extra large now, so I can actually buy stylish clothes, which is nice, even though I'm wearing my work polo.
That's awesome. That's fine. Well, let me ask you this. Obviously, we've had a lot of things, like find a program that you can do and stick to it. It sounds like in your case, you obviously would advise people, hey, don't try to do too much too quickly. Pick the diet.
Control your diet first, because that took me the longest years to figure out, because I had worked out in the gym for 2 years and didn't lose any weight. I got strong, but didn't lose any weight,
Because it doesn't matter. Like the people like, oh, I'm going to do all these crunches to get abs. Like you have abs underneath of there, but it doesn't matter how many crunches you do if you don't lose.
You can not have abs and your core can be still strong.
But if you don't have the diet right, like that's the whole thing. The infomercial, like do this exercise and be Billy Blanks and have these. But if you don't,
those people don't have a carb for 10 years.
Yeah, if you don't do the diet,
if you want to do that, then you go for it. pumping testosterone and steroids like crazy to do that. So it's like,
which is another thing that people do. Well, let me ask you this. So obviously we've got some highlights there, but like if you were talking to someone right now that's listening to you and I have this conversation, what are some tips that you would give them? Obviously we've talked about a few of them, but is there anything that we haven't touched on that it's like, I would definitely say this, because I think it's pretty impressive for a guy to go from, like you said, 320 pounds down to 215 in what amounts to a little bit over a year. I mean, these are the kinds of transformations that, people see on TV.
the Weight Watchers commercials.
Yeah, exactly. It's a Weight Watchers commercial.
Move on over, Oprah.
Absolutely. So it's not very often in like your day-to-day life that you meet someone that's had that much success that's been able to actually sustain it. Because, you look at when you started, we're coming up later this year, it'll be 2 years since you started this journey. So what advice would you give others?
Of course, commitment is the biggest thing. You have to commit to it. And like I was saying before, the diet is just the whole life change. I mean, you can do like a fad diet that works for you and you might lose, like keto. You can do that and you lose a lot of weight. Problem is you got to maintain ketosis if you're going to keep doing that. And that's really hard to do. Talk to a lot of people that have done it. Some people have been able to sustain it, but people I've known that have done it, they've lost 30, 40 pounds, 3 months, and then they fall out of ketosis and they start eating like they did before and they gain 60 pounds back. It's just, you have to find something that actually changes your entire lifestyle that would work for you. So like with me, I was saying like I don't even really use the app anymore. It's just like I just know what to eat and what not to eat and what's healthy and what's not healthy because I focused on the diet for so long. It's just kind of my mindset now. I don't reach for the honey buns or whatever stuff like that. Just 2 or 3 of those a day, or the Snickers bar ice creams, and just sitting there eating like buy a half gallon of ice cream, and eat the whole darn thing in like a day and a half. It's like I just don't do that anymore. I'll still go to Krispy Kreme every now and then on a cheat night and say, yep, I'm gonna have 4 donuts and just eat them.
How important do you think the cheat? Like that's another
that is
thing.
Extremely important because most people
are too militant.
They're like, I'm not going to have a cheat. But yes, have a cheat. First when you're starting out, just have a cheat meal like once a week. And then, you can work after you lost a bunch of weight, you can have a cheat day and not go crazy, but just kind of eat what you want and keep it under control and portion control and stuff like that. And then once, like now where I'm at, where I hit basically the 105 pound mark in November, I've maintained that, but I've still like lost inches and stuff like that just from going to the gym and stuff like that. But I've maintained that just the way I eat.
How many times before this time had you tried to lose weight before? How many times?
I'd say 6, 7 times probably.
What's the most success you'd ever had before now? Like, did you ever?
The one year when, I worked out for like a year and a half and I lost like 20 pounds and got pretty strong, but still big. And it was still bad blood work because it was just because I still wasn't eating that great. I would think I was eating great, but I wasn't. And weight's a huge factor when it comes to, diabetes and crap like that. So it's a huge factor. So, like some of the best news you can have is like, I went to the doctor in January or February, and like I hadn't seen him for a year because of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So like he walked in and he looked at me and he looked down at his chart and then looked back up at me and he said, "What in the world did you do?" And I was like, I told him what I did and everything. He's like, "Wow." And he's like, "All right." So he's like, "Well, let's look at your blood work." And he looked at it and he was just smiling when he looked at it. He's like, it's phenomenal. Yeah. He's like, "Your blood pressure is 120/80. He's like, "That's optimal." He's like, "Your sugar's perfect." He's like, "Impressive. You feel great?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." So that was like a good kind of reward, especially when the year before he was like, "You're gonna freaking die at 45 if you don't change, if you don't change something now, you're gonna like die of a heart attack or something like that." But
yeah, you basically have been taking the test the entire year in terms of like losing weight by diet and exercise, and so that was kind of the report card that finally came out and said, "Yep, right. You got an A."
Yeah, I got an A. I aced it. Graduating with honors.
You nailed it. You were super excited about it. No, I think that's awesome. No, I think you've nailed some really key things here, which are obviously find something that works for you. You got to find a plan.
And don't try to do too much. Like
don't try to do too much too quickly.
Just focus on the diet first and get it under control for 2 or 3 months, and That way, because if you start at the same time and you're dieting, going to the gym, you come back starving because your body's like, you worked out and your body's craving stuff. And like, that's something I had to deal with. Like when I did start going to the gym, because I would come back starving at night. So I'm like, what do I eat? So if I do come back, I would save some points on my Weight Watchers for, a spoon of peanut butter or some jerky or some wasabi peas or almonds or something like that has with packed full of protein that I could eat after the gym. That makes sense. And had to do that just because I knew I would be hungry. But as long as you eat the right things, you can eat what you want.
Yeah, don't go to the gym and then leave and go to like cookout.
Yeah,
like,
cookout.
Just,
go to the bar, have 6 beers, then go home.
Yeah,
so.
Kind of defeats all the work that you just put in the gym if you do all that.
Defeats the entire purpose of it. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, one of the last things I'd like to ask everybody on the podcast as we're kind of wrapping up, and I think you've obviously, you embody the can't deposit excuses mantra and what that means. But the last question I always ask everybody is, when you hear that can't deposit excuses, what does that bring out in you? What does that make you think of when you hear that? Because it sounds like your whole journey through weight loss, yep, you had to have that mentality.
It is. You can't make excuses for not wanting to go work out. You can't make excuses for not eating right, because you can. It's just, you got to find that one motivating factor for you, mm-hmm, and use that. Like I had a couple, but the biggest piece is just the motivating factor for you. So you can't deposit excuses or whatever, you can't do that. You have to stick to the plan and do that. But having a plan is the biggest thing. And for me, it was Weight Watchers and then, adding in the gym after 4 or 5 months. But for somebody else, it might be, they're like, well, I don't eat that bad now, but I just can't lose weight. That might just be the gym for them, but like motivating themselves to go to that and exercise and everything like that. You have to find something you like to do. Like I hated like crazy doing burpees and push-ups, but now I actually like doing them because you feel great after you do them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. It's the motivation, the why.
Yeah, and everybody's is different.
Everybody's is different. I think sometimes, maybe it's something as simple as I want to look good for this event, or I want to look good for my reunion weekend or whatever. But for you, it was more like my life. I've seen my mother and what happened to her, and I have a wife and 2 kids, and I want to be around. So the doctor gave me some pretty terrible news about what path I was going down. So that's a shock. Yeah, yeah. That's a huge motivating factor. But and some people that use I want to look good for the beach or look good for this event, that's great. But what are you going to do after it? Yeah, if it's short term and short lived, it's got to be a long term, life change kind of thing. So. Well, Gary, man, it's been fantastic having you on the podcast. This is exactly the type of conversation I love to have. I'm hoping that someone out there, I know when I see people on, say, Facebook, and those who are my friends on Facebook, if they watch this, they'll know who they are, because whenever I see them out running and they post a picture or they talk about something they've done, I'm always like, awesome job, because it's highly motivating. Even if they don't know, I'm hoping that this conversation that you and I had changes someone's life out there that takes the time to listen to it or takes the time to hear your story, because I think it's pretty impressive. And I think it lets other people know, it's not just the people in the commercials that you see with Weight Watchers. It's not just the people you see on television shows. There are real people in the real world living in your community that are having success. If you just put in the effort and time to try to find something that works for you, you can have some success, lose some weight, and change your life. So thank you so much for being on this episode. I really appreciate it. I'm not sure what to do with my hands. I had to do this. I had to throw the Talladega Nights in there. Thank you. So if you stayed around long enough, you got to see what Gary's been wanting to do since we started this. He didn't know what to do with his hands, but we finally figured it out. Thank you guys for sticking around, and that's another episode in the books. Appreciate you guys.